introducing a new Toastmaster and her Icebreaker speech titled, Analyze Before You Assume and Think Before You Do, and how 18 marked the beginning of a steep learning curve. Please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Briana Morgan.
Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today? That's good. I know I'm very happy to be here this morning. Last week I had my table topics Icebreaker, and today I have my Icebreaker speech. So I'm very glad to be in front of all y'all here this morning. When I spoke to some of y'all about what to do for my speech, a few of you said, just tell a story. Something entertaining. Something that shows who you are. And something a little vulnerable. And those things stuck to me. So when I started thinking about what story to share, I went straight to my 18-year-old self. Now, granted, I'm definitely not the same person as I was back then, but that version of me had a way of jumping into things, let's say head first. It was during that time that I started realizing how important it is to take a step back, to pause, to reflect, and analyze the situation before reacting, to think before doing. That mindset shift changed how I handled challenges, relationships, and how even I see myself. When I turned 18, I wanted to be as far away from my parents as possible. Now, don't get me wrong, my parents were amazing, no shade on them, but like a lot of 18-year-olds, I was finally tasting freedom for the first time. And as an only child and the only grandchild on my dad's side, that freedom felt even more exciting. After so much isolation that I experienced during COVID, I was a little extra desperate for that freedom. So what did I do, you ask? I moved 4,500 miles away to Spain. I only came back twice, on Christmas and when my visa expired. But honestly, that move almost didn't happen. Back when I was applying to colleges, I was really only looking for two things. Congratulations, and if I opened the letter, if there was confetti. Because let's be real, nobody wants to read the letter if it doesn't start with good news. At the time, I'd heard back from 5 out of 6 schools. I was still waiting on my top choice, Florida State University. FSU had a special place in my heart. Both my dad and grandfather studied aerospace engineering there. So it felt like a legacy to me. When the FSU letter finally came, I'll never forget it. I was at work and my heart sank. No congratulations, no confetti, just words. I immediately assumed the worst. I started crying right then and there because I was 100% convinced that I didn't get in. Now, a couple months later, my mom asked me to print out all my college decision letters so she could keep them on file. I told her I was fine printing the 5 acceptance letters, but I wasn't quite sure about how I felt printing the one from FSU, especially since it was a rejection letter from my dream school. But my mom, being my mom, she made me print it anyway. Then she made me sit down and read it out loud. So I did. And as I'm reading it, I realized I actually did get into FSU. It just wasn't a traditional acceptance. It was through something called the Pathway Program. And if you aren't familiar with the Pathway Program, it's basically an alternative way in. You still go to FSU, but you start off at one of the few different paths. Either spending a semester at their Panama City campus, a semester at Tallahassee Community College, studying abroad for a semester, or studying abroad for a full year. Now, knowing what you know about my 18-year-old self and wanting to be as far away from my parents as humanly possible, you already know which one I picked. You're dang right I chose that full year abroad over to Spain. The first big lesson I learned was to analyze before I assume. You know, read the fine print. So many opportunities could just slip right through our fingers if we don't slow down and really take a moment to understand what's in front of us. That one simple mistake, assuming I didn't get into FSU, could have changed everything if I hadn't gone back and taken the time to actually read it. Because of that lesson, I ended up spending my freshman year studying abroad in Valencia, Spain, and I got to travel to 25 different countries. That experience completely shaped who I am today. So what did my 18-year-old self really teach me? I started thinking before doing. I began asking myself, what are the consequences? What will I gain? Is it worth my time? And if it is, am I really paying attention? Am I reading things thoroughly before making a decision? Growing up, my grandfather had these little printouts all over the house, and they didn't quite mean something to me back then. I used to brush it off, and now those questions guide a lot of what I say and do. Those two questions are, is it true, is it kind, and is it necessary? Now, back then, I acted before I thought, assumed before I understood, and because of that, I made some mistakes. But I also learned some of the most valuable lessons of my life. So if there's one thing I hope you take from my story, it's this. The next time you're in a moment of uncertainty or debate, pause. Take a breath. Think before you act. Because you never know what kind of opportunity you might be missing. Thank you.